Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the latest edition of Light After Loss on 1-800-Flowers Facebook page. I am Rebecca Sofer, the co-founder of Modern Loss, which is a global movement and community solely focused on pulling people together through difficult and communal conversations and inspirational conversations around the long arc of grief and loss and how we can build resilience and find meaning along the way of what is a very messy, confusing time that does not come with a roadmap attached to it. So we kind of have to figure it out for ourselves. And that is exactly what we do here at Light After Loss every single month. I speak with a different expert in their field. It could be about grief and loss, or it could be about something about how we can deal with adversity, how we can tease some meaning from difficult times so that we can live rich lives. And today is very much the latter. I am absolutely thrilled to have our guest today, Schildkret. We are absolutely officially full on holiday season. I noticed the twinkling lights going up even before they took the Halloween decorations down, which I think it's a little extreme, but that's a retailer's choice. I think with people who live with loss, which are so many of us, this is the most universal human thing that a person can experience, after birth and death is living with loss and grief. So I just want to say this is an incredibly normal, human, universal thing that we experience. And sometimes it can feel a little bit harsher than others. And one of those times can be in these, festive seasons, these holiday seasons, which seem to kind of go on for further extended periods of time each year. We are probably dealing with a lot of invitations to things, or maybe we are starkly aware of what we're not being invited to. I think a lot of us are bracing ourselves for family and friend celebrations where there might be a place at a table where somebody will no longer be moving forward. We are keenly aware of what is missing and who is missing in our lives. And that is an enormous adjustment, especially around festive times that might have rituals attached to them, which we've been so used to doing with those people involved. How can we kind of like reroute our experiences without that person, without that being? How can we create new and meaningful rituals, in memory of them, and also in their absence, new rituals that might not involve them, that make us feel like we're starting our own thing as well. And so I'm really glad to have some guidance here from Schildkret. He is an award-winning author, artist, ritualist, teacher, and is internationally known for morning altars, a practice in nature, art, and ritual. Basically, he helps people celebrate life and come up with amazing creative ways to create ritual around any aspect of transition or milestone moments in life, large or small. He's the author of this really terrific book, which I have on my desk because the cover is so beautiful. It's called Hello, Goodbye, 75 Rituals for Times of Loss, Celebration, and Change. And I think we're very, very lucky to have him here today. So hello, thanks for joining us.
Hello, goodbye. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. I know you're really busy helping people do this exact thing that I'm going to be asking you about. But please help our audience out here today because, for one, I still have memories. My mother died years ago, as did my father, and I still feel their absence when
Yeah.
I am at the table with my family, which now is comprised of people who weren't even born the last time I saw my parents. I
Mm.
still note their absence. I still remember the rituals that my dad and I did around, say, Hanukkah, which were very, very odd. I mean, to some people, I thought it was amazing. We used to build an oversized menorah out of 2x4s, and because I would complain that I wanted to have holiday lights in my front yard. And my dad would be like, well, we're Jewish. And our compromise would be building an enormous wooden menorah and wrapping it in Christmas lights. And it became this kind of like drive-by destination for our neighborhood. And I loved it so much. And I just, that was just such a beautiful annual ritual around the holiday season. And now I don't do it anymore, and I miss it.
Mm.
And that's a really tall order for me to do anyway. But, the holidays, my point is that it doesn't matter at what point in time we've had a loss. Holiday time can be tough when we're dealing with change. So, my first question is, why do we struggle so much with change in general, and especially during the holiday season?
Yeah, I think we have to put first and foremost just position ourselves in a culture that really fears change. So, that's number one is that we're taught to really fear it and not to be in relationship with it, right? And so what loss really is underlying it is the reminder that life is impermanent. That's it. It's like life is impermanent. Things come and go, people come and go, right? And so when someone we love, and also for me, my father died 11 years ago, which is an enormous loss to my family. I think about him every day. My mother currently has dementia, which is another kind of loss. She's losing her mind and we're losing her very slowly. And
Mm-hmm.
there's all of these milestones along the way that help us to remember that of this loss. Here's the thing, when we're talking about meaning, the actual word itself, meaning or meaningful, the etymology of the word means a way to remember. So when we create something meaningful, it's a way to bring someone or something back into our memory so that we don't lose them. And that's the thing. We have this euphemism in our culture that says, like, I lost my father. But really, what we have are ways in the year, especially holidays, where we can weave them back into our memory so that we don't lose them. I don't want to lose my dad. I want him in my life.
Yeah.
We have a nephew coming in right now, just in a couple months. And the thing my brother and I talk a lot about is how do we weave his memory back into our lives so that this new baby that's coming in can can feel my father through our memory. And ritual is a way to do that. It's a
Yeah.
mechanism to remember.
How can, you have a really good point, because I also, obviously, my community is called Modern Loss. We talk about this as loss because we just don't have a better word for it, just like, we are still normalizing the conversation around grief and loss in our culture.
Yeah.
And I view loss as something that is, for me, it's a personal experience that is longer term. Living with loss to me feels like an active endeavor, feels like something that I have a little bit of control over with regard to how I react to it, how I preempt, some trigger events, and how I, build around it, how I fold it into my life. But it's true. I mean, like you said, you don't want to lose anyone. It's not like a wallet. Yeah, I didn't
Exactly.
lose my mom. I mean, I know where she technically is, but I don't want to feel like I've lost her. I want to feel like she's still with us. So with that said, in general, how can ritual, which I love, like I love ritual, and I'm not even talking about it in the religious sense, I'm talking about it in the control sense, in a time that feels like we have such little control, which are these stages of loss and grief, even if it is, was a long
Yeah.
time ago that we suffered the loss. Grief rears its head whenever it damn well wants to,
Yeah.
and makes us feel out of control. And ritual is an action that allows us to put a frame around an experience that doesn't have a lot of control. So, how can ritual help us? I don't want to say go to get over it, because there's no such thing, but recover from these experiences of loss.
Well, first and foremost, my understanding of grief is a way of loving life well. It's not an affliction. Grief is not something we have to get under or over or through. It's a way of knowing life well. As you said at the beginning of this interview, loss is a part of life. It's a part of it. And grief is how we can know our love well. It's like this man, my dad, was here and now he's gone. And my grief is my way of connecting back to him, right? But we live very busy lives. And it's so easy to forget. And so before we know it, we're like on to the next thing, and we have meetings, and we have family trips, and we have dinners, and it's life moves so quickly. And if we don't have these mechanisms in our day, in our year, to help us remember, we do lose our loved ones.
Mm.
We lose their memories. I mean, my father left us with so many rich memories, and as you know, we're almost on our 12th year, and remembering the little subtle things are really hard these days. And so it's the rituals that help us to remember that we have to remember, right? And they could be so simple. I'm not talking about anything complex. For instance, when we're having Thanksgiving, you know, my family's about to have Thanksgiving, we leave a glass of wine on the table for my dad. We leave him a glass of wine because we want him there and we feel the imprint of his loss with us.
Hmm.
And it's yes, it's heartbreaking, but it's rich and it's wonderful because we want him with us. And so the ritual is raising a glass, and we just do it for a couple minutes, but we all raise a glass and share one thing, one memory that we want to weave back into our Thanksgiving meal. And it's
Yeah.
very simple.
That,
Yeah,
yeah, that is simple. I think that people get, first of all, loss can be an overwhelming thing. And even though I think we're all experts at grief and loss when we are dealing with it, we certainly don't feel like experts. We feel like we're flailing.
I
We
don't
feel
even think we are.
overwhelmed,
Yeah.
and so, well, I think we're experts in our own experience. I think all of us have something to teach somebody else about, what might help or not help with loss and grief. And I do think that, like, though, especially during holiday times, that's an overwhelming period regardless of whether there's anything else wrong in your life. It's just so overwhelming. Who can keep up? And we're faced with maybe hosting or maybe the prospect of attending and socializing.
Totally.
Maybe we're a little introverted. We're not maybe not
Totally.
thrilled about all of this. And so in addition to like that, leaving the glass of wine out, what are some specific and like simple, accessible ways that can help us when we are remembering, say, other rituals and celebrations during the holiday? You just gave one because you really wish that you could share that glass of wine with your dad. And to me, that's poignant, and it is sad because it is highlighting the loss.
Hmm.
Um, so how can we apply, what are some other ideas of how we can apply rituals to the festive season that are new and healing, and help us to stay connected to that person?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, you said the word overwhelm, which is like how many of us are living these days, is like
Yeah,
life is overwhelming, right? Here's the thing, ritual is always about an approach. Rituals are something that you have to slow down to do. You can't just do it really fast. I mean, they're
right.
asking us to slow down, right? And so what they're doing is it's almost like we're pausing the craziness. We're pausing it. We're almost entering into this timeless place where like maybe my dad is still sitting at the table with us. Like we're employing our imagination. We're employing a certain a kind of connection, right? And so we're slowing down or even stopping. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a very important part of ritual. Second of all, rituals are always positioned around thresholds, meaning like where has it been? Where am I going? There are these moments of change. And anniversaries are that, holidays are that, moments like marriage, divorce, birth, deaths, they're all these threshold moments. And they're moments for us to not just keep going forward, but to, and here's the key word, to return, to
Mm-hmm.
return to what's important. If you don't keep returning to it, it goes away. You forget what's important just because you said life is so overwhelming and crazy. So, even just for instance, when I wake up in the morning, I put my feet down on the earth, on my floor, and I just pause and I ask myself, what am I grateful for right now? It's a really simple ritual where because I have a million and one things to do when I wake up in the morning and my mind's already going. But I have this ritual of putting both feet on the floor. And before I stand up, I literally ask myself the question, what am I grateful for? And what am I standing up into in my day? What am I excited to get into? And then I start my day and it puts me into the right place. And I think we need to do that when we have these holidays. We must weave our people, the people that we've quote unquote lost, we must weave them back into our memory. And we must make meaning. Third thing about ritual, and I just want to say, and this is perfect for this audience, is that ritual can and should be beautiful. It's almost like if you cross a threshold, you're adorning it,
Mm-hmm.
not just running past it. You're not just crossing it. You're actually making something beautiful there. Yeah. So in holiday seasons, for instance, a great one is like a wreath. Many of us like hang wreaths on our door, and there's something that's woven. We weave things in. So oftentimes when I'm doing a ritual, I ask my audience I give them prompts. I give them a question,
Mm-hmm.
right? What is someone or something? What's a memory you want to weave into this moment? And you're doing it. You're physically weaving. Let's say you're making a wreath and you're physically weaving it in, but you're doing it with a question that helps make it more meaningful. And remember, meaning is always connected to remembering. It's a
Mm-hmm.
way to remember. And because memory is, we forget. So we have to keep weaving it back in. So for instance, making a wreath is that. Or another one that my mother used to love and actually with her dementia still loves. She loves making bouquets. She loves it. She loves taking flowers and putting them together and making something beautiful. But here's the question. What's the purpose?
Mm-hmm.
So can you ask yourself one question that makes it purposeful? For instance, someone that I lost this year that I want to bring into this moment? And can you tell one memory of that person? And as you're bringing these many things together, you're bringing your memory back together again. And that's a very simple thing. We all make bouquets. We all can make a wreath, but it's doing it with some aspect of intention and meaning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, some of us aren't actually, some of us may not even be missing the same person in the same way as somebody else. Like I find that loss, it's a highly personalized thing. It's so individualized because not one person has the same relationship with somebody who died as even like another person in the same family.
Yeah.
So how can rituals and meaning making bring more understanding during times of change, that we're talking about, and with groups of people who might be missing the same person in different ways? Like
Yeah.
what is like a type ritual or a couple ideas for our audience rather that they could consider where you could really do it, with others, even though you and still maintain your own personal meaning from it.
So one of the chapters in Hello Goodbye is a ritual for death anniversaries. It's that once a year, and we just had my father's is coming up, but we also just had his birthday a couple of weeks ago. And it's that once a year in the year where it's the day my dad died, and what do we do? And there's a lot of people that loved him, and there's a lot of people that still remember my dad, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I created a ritual in the book based on the phone tree, where
Mm-hmm.
like when you were a kid and there's some news that wants to get out and you call someone and they call someone and they call someone and it kind of spreads like that. Except this idea is a candle phone tree. And so it can work in two different ways. Either many people send you one candle or you send many people one candle. But how it works is we all get on a Zoom call because we're all in many different places at the same time. But we all have this candle. And I light the candle and I share one memory of my father. And then you light that candle and you share one memory of him. And the candles it goes from one light to many lights. And it's an opportunity for us to remember together. And that's exactly what you were saying, which is I have my own memories of my dad. But my brother has his own memories and my aunt has her own memories. But by doing one ritual at the same time, and we're all doing the same action, which is lighting one candle, we get to illuminate those memories. And I get to remember through my brother's memory, right? Like I forgot so many things that he remembers about my dad, and I remember things that he forgot about my dad. So the ritual gives us all what I call a symbolic action.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is we're lighting something, we're igniting something, we're remembering something. It's an
Yeah.
easy thing. It's a tea light. You can buy it in a store. It's super easy. But
I love that.
we're all doing it together at the same time.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's like just a real challenge for people because obviously, like, emotions are already running high during holidays. We're bracing ourselves for seeing, like, cousin Tim at the table, and like maybe, he has some stories about dad that you're really not looking forward to hearing. And, you're feeling a little protective. This is just the way families are. These are human dynamics. There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with it. It just is the way it is. So we
it
would
is the
be
way it is.
disingenuous by not admitting that. And so we want to serve our viewers by giving them these ideas because, yeah, like I love the tea light idea because it's very accessible, it's very democratic. But then anyone can feel however they darn well want to about what it means to them. And that, to me, is a perfect type of ritual during
And
holidays and group.
totally. And for me, I might remember, because it's who I am, something deeply meaningful about my father. But my brother, who's kind of a jokester, is going to remember something silly and funny about my dad. And
Right.
my aunt, who's like known my dad for way longer than I have, will remember
Yeah.
something very old about him. And we get to weave these memories together, but we're all doing something very accessible. And it's an action, right? We're
Yes.
not just sharing memories. We're doing something with our hands, and that
Yeah.
rituals can't be thought. Rituals have to be done. We do them through our hands, our mouth, our feet, our bellies. They're a symbolic action that we do. We break something, we tear something, we submerge, we bury, or we ignite something, right? And it's
Yeah.
very easy. It's
No.
something that we could all do together.
Right. As long as it's not like a tree inside a house. Igniting something
No,
sometimes
we do
actually
ignite
sounds
trees
like
inside the
it.
house. We light Christmas lights, right?
Right.
We put that on and light a Christmas light in the house, or yeah,
Right.
or a
Right. I
menorah.
meant like, let's not like light it aflame. But yes, I do love that. And I think it's just like you say, like just the tactical aspect of ritual. It relaxes us. It's much like sitting around a table with food, kind of like loosens us up to the point where we feel more comfortable with each other. We feel like our emotions are loosened. We can share more easily. We have something to do while the other person is
That's a
talking.
very important point, what you're saying. We have something to
Mhm.
do, especially when there's
Yeah.
loss. We often
Right.
feel like we have nothing to do. We're just kind of stuck with our grief. Ritual gives
Right.
us something to do. That's a very important point. Yeah,
Exactly. And which is why I just love it because, again, like grief can somehow feel like it's owning you. And it's nice to have one small, like, stake in the ground where, no, 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 I have something to do here. I have a job. It's a small job, but it's something I have control over.
I'll tell you a quick
So,
story real quick because it's related to
sure.
holidays. And with
Sure.
I lost my dog died during the holidays a couple years ago,
Oh,
and it was a big loss. Pets are big losses in our lives. They're our family.
absolutely.
At least for me,
Absolutely.
she was my family.
I
And
get it.
after the loss, after she died, this object called her leash, this leash that I used for 15 years,
Mm.
that we used every morning, every evening. It was like a very worn leash. And then suddenly one day it had no purpose. It was garbage because I
Yeah.
wasn't there to walk her with. So we
No.
have a tradition in my culture, in the Jewish culture, where when there's a loss, we cut a ribbon. We
Mm.
tear something and we wear a little ribbon to remind us and others that we're mourning.
Right.
And so I had this idea to do a ritual to take her leash, and I cut it, and I wore a little bit of her leash over my heart. And
Oh,
that was a way to turn an object. I did something with my hands because otherwise the grief was really overwhelming. I had nothing, I
yeah.
didn't know what to do. So I did
Yeah.
something with my hands. I cut her leash. I cried a lot. And then I wore it over my heart. And so that I could, and a lot of people asked me about it. Like, what is that? And I got an opportunity to tell her story and to remember her just through this little object of wearing a little strip of her leash over my jacket. And that was a very simple ritual that really let me remember and really let me like
Yeah.
honor her.
That's a great example because I think that so many of us are just looking for witnesses to our story. And just by virtue
Exactly.
of you wearing a small piece of her leash, it's like you're creating a little intrigue because people are like, what's that thing you're wearing?
Exactly.
And you're like, oh, well, since you asked, and you have an opportunity to share. And I think that is so wonderful. And like, that's something that people can definitely bring into the holiday season. Maybe you don't want to talk about it, and that's fine. That's totally fine. You may feel differently at 5 p.m. than you do at 1 p.m. on the same
Totally.
day. Like you do you, like you just listen to your gut. But if you do feel like you need to share, take a page out of Dave's book. Literally, his book is great, and just you can actually bring something. I mean, I gave a talk last week, and I wore my mom's boots to it, and they're fabulous boots. They are literally just phenomenally gorgeous. And so I knew people would be like, those are amazing. But I wanted them to say, look at those boots. Because I wanted to say they were my mom's, and this is like, it was like, her birthday week, and she would have been 80. And I never even got to see her turn 64. And for me, that was really a nice thing to like ask people to be my witness. And you can definitely do that in holiday time. You're going to a cocktail party, do you want to feel seen and acknowledged? Wear that person's pin, wear a shirt, like wear like a knickknack or do something. Like who
This is
knows?
my
Do anything.
grandmother's. This is my
Mm-hmm.
grandma's. Exactly.
Yeah, that's
As is.
beautiful.
Yeah. Hmm.
So last question for you is, right after all the December holidays, we've got New Year's, which the publishing world likes to talk about the New Year,
New
New
year,
You
new
books,
you.
right?
Yes.
So like,
Uh-huh.
I kind of feel like same old me, New Year, but I do every year try to kind of figure out rituals for new beginnings. I'm not saying, oh, the slate is wiped totally clean, but I like to kind of be a little bit intentional about like, what would I kind of like this year to look like, knowing that I only have so much control? What are some ideas for creating rituals for new beginnings that people can maybe
Sure. I have
keep in
actually
mind?
a chapter in the book on New Year's, so it's perfect. And the rituals in that chapter are asking you to do what you already are doing, which is we're all toasting. That's a very easy access point. Toasting is a ritual, right? We all raise a glass. So here's the question. What if the toasting had rounds? Meaning, what if there was like in the book I write four every 15 minutes before midnight. So 4 rounds. There's a question that you're asking about the year that has been, right? And you're taking a little bit of alcohol out of your cup. And then
Mm-hmm.
New Year's happens and you're toasting 4 rounds every 15 minutes. What is something new that you're looking forward to or wanting to call in for the new year? And you're drinking. And it's an opportunity to work with a ritual that's already, it's very, very easy. We're all toasting. We all have a glass, whether it's alcohol or a mocktail, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? But people need direction. Direction. So it's not just a hey to the new year, but like, for instance, what is something that I'm leaving behind this year? What is someone that I want to remember as we walk into the new year? What is something that I miss? Someone that I miss. What is some project that I'm excited about for the new year? And so the toasting can actually have a purpose. And so the magic of it is taking some out and putting some in.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and just remembering that that's a threshold moment. New Year's is a threshold, so we have to look back before we look forward. Very
Mm-hmm.
important part of ritual, looking back before we look forward and reflecting and setting an intention. And so drinking, raising a glass is a perfect way to do that.
Day, thank you so much. I mean, I think that you're clearly a font of very, very creative ideas. And this is something where, ritual people, a lot of people are really at a loss with what to do during these times. And I'm so grateful
Ritual
for all of your
cookbook.
ideas. Yeah, I really just appreciate it. And I wish you a very peaceful and meaningful holiday season full of all the rituals that you can create or be pulled into. And everybody else, again, Dave Schildkret, his book, Hello, Goodbye, 75 Rituals for Times of Loss, Celebration, and Change. And please, please, please feel free to share your rituals in the comment section. Ask any questions for either of us. We're going to hop on later and speak to them. And, you got to hang in there. We've got your back. Day and I have your back this month.
We got your back.
Just always refer back to this video. And of course, please feel free to check out the many, many other Light After Loss episodes that are available on this very Facebook page that you can see the archives from. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Rebecca Sofer from Modern Loss, and I wish everybody a very meaningful holiday season in whichever meaning you need for it to be. Take care. See you next time.